Arr, matey. I got one eye blocked because I'm a pirate.
Wait, what was that? Stop. Enhance. Enhance.
Welcome to Star Trek Prodigy, episode 17. That's right. We're on the home stretch. This is... what was this called? Ghost in the Machine. What does that mean? Am I a ghost? Am I just a ghost in your machine? What if I'm not real? And I'm just a figment of your imagination. Better yet, a figment of your computer. Undoubtedly, you're watching this on some electronic device, right? Maybe I just exist inside there. I'm just a ghost in your device, in your machine. This is Ghost in the Machine. A bland description. I got a little worried when I saw the description for this episode just simply being our characters are trapped in the holodeck when something goes wrong. Like, the minute we invented the holodeck, it was designed to fail. We are surrounded by boundless technology. In order to have a plot, the technology has to fail. You can get away with a good episode here and there from failed technology, but you shouldn't rely on it. You want the Star Trek technology to look reliable, fun, user-friendly, safe. If it fails all the time, you wouldn't want to use it, and you wouldn't want to be there. You don't want your villain of a season being the technology. You don't want it being AI. You don't want it being androids. And you don't want constant holodeck failure episodes. True to the ethos of Star Trek Voyager, the holodeck is failing. We're overusing the holodeck. Something goes wrong. Shouldn't we just turn it off? They wouldn't listen to me. So Voyager's quest through the Milky Way galaxy ended up being extremely dangerous. The protostar is no different. Something goes wrong with the holodeck. In Ghost in the Machine. With that out of the way, let's see what's poppin'. Let's see what's poppin' fresh and what's good, as the kids say, with this episode. It's not all good. Some of it's bad. And admittedly, it's winning for me on shallow reasons. This episode doesn't hit a lot of strong points for me. But we'll get into that by the time we wrap up this review. This episode begins basically exactly like the episode Kobayashi of this season. I can't remember if it was Kobayashi or Kobayashi Maru. They've been saying that a lot lately. Forgive me for getting befuddled by it. We're in a simulation. Okay, it's obvious. It didn't fool me for a moment. We are being attacked by the Dauntless, and we are trying to, guess what, in this simulation? Use Morse code to talk to the Dauntless. I guessed it. I think a few episodes back, I came up with this concept that they could shoot phaser blasts, or torpedoes for that matter, in a certain sequence to get across a message in Morse code. They came to the same conclusion, but for whatever reason, it's not working in this simulation. How accurate is this simulation really, though? They said they tried like 87 times or something like that. Again, shadows of the episode Kobayashi, if that's what it's called, where Dal fails the holodeck mission on the Enterprise D countless times. Again, he tries it. Same here. But this episode retreads plot ideas that we have already seen in this season. And we'll get into that in a moment. Another sob story. We're failing. How do we win? This time, we're sobbing to each other over really cool looking ice cream. They get it from the replicator. Bizarre looking, like yellowish ice cream with like purple triangles. It looks so cool. I don't know what it is, but I really wanted to eat it. And they're just saying, oh, I've came from a petri dish. I'm Dal. Boo hoo, look at me. Oh, that Dr. Newham. Oh, how I'd like to slap his jowls. That being Jenkin's story. We all have our own grievances. But ice cream always helps. Isn't that funny? I guess it doesn't matter where you are in the galaxy. If you have ice cream, all your troubles don't seem so bad. Well, let's hit the hay, shall we? I'll see you at 08 whatever. Dal goes to sleep in the captain's quarters. Turn off the music. Uh-oh. The music doesn't turn off. What's that about? Can you guess what's happening? I don't think kids might be able to guess it. But as soon as you bring a holodeck into an episode, I know I'm dealing with a different level of reality, and there's different expectations for the episode. If you haven't seen Star Trek before, or like I said, if you're a kid, you may find this really interesting. But for me, I found it predictable, boring even. So what do you think is happening? Gwyn sees someone walking around the ship. Rok-tahk sees a pet creature from her holodeck program that she plays, Delta Heart Magical Veterinarian or something like that. Calls to mind some old Earth game I remember. There used to be like these Barbie games for PC, and one of them was like a Barbie veterinarian game or something like that from a long time ago. Not that I'm that old, but I'm an aficionado of game software from that era, and it just calls to mind that this idea of veterinarian simulation games, which would be way cooler in a holodeck than on an old CRT monitor. So our holodeck programs are subtly morphing into reality. You've probably come to the conclusion that the holodeck simulation didn't really end. One thing the holodeck can do is recreate a simulation of the ship that the holodeck is mounted into. Very cool for training purposes. If I had the holodeck, I'd probably just spend all my time in engineering in this ship, where I already am. I like things simple. I'm a minimalist, you see. You can... Merc, we have a holodeck. You can simulate anything you want. Okay, simulate engineering deck, U.S.S. Dingwall, NCC 136. Perfect. One thing leads to another, you see, and we end up in what looks like a Halloween episode. We go to Zero's holodeck simulation, which is looks like a haunted castle, where it combines elements of, like, if you remember this is going to reference a lot of old things. Nancy Drew. There used to be these books and then PC games where you would solve these mysteries, and it was like solve puzzles, talk to people, real gumshoe being a detective, to snoop, as it were. And that's what Zero does in her preferred holodeck program. We have a letter slide through the door mysteriously, very ominous, very Halloween-y. This in many ways felt like an out-of-date Halloween episode. This would have been cool if this was around Halloween when this came out, and it stayed on track with that, instead of meandering as it did, and we actually solved this mystery of finding the skeleton key or the skull key or whatever it is. That would have been cool. But as it stands right now, we all get these letters. They overlap and reveal that we need to find this key. Okay? Suddenly we get a soundtrack, rock and roll music. Jenkin's holodeck program is merged with this one. The holodeck programs of each character are merging together to create an amorphous and confusing whole. Jenkin's program is a street fighting program where he beats up on other Tellarites. Very mature. You see, a person's own holodeck program is kind of like a window into their hidden desires, right? You can do a lot with that thematically. Sadly, this episode doesn't really touch on that. This episode would have benefited from our characters revealing that their own holodeck simulations that they were playing were a lot more personal to them, and to explain why, and to even have some embarrassment upon their secrets being revealed. Like, you would be forgiven for using a holodeck program to relieve pain in some way by exposing yourself to it again, right? And you would train yourself to deal with traumatic situations that you may or may not have had in the past. That could be thematically interesting to explore in the framework of a glitching holodeck, where we get to see other people's holodeck programs unsolicited and without their permission, as it were. That could have been interesting. We got a touch of it, but we never dwelled on it long enough to get that theme across. And for me, that was this episode's failing point. Jankum is fighting in the streets. We find this guy, a Tellarite, the key on his chest, only for the program to switch again to the Key Club. It's black and white. An interesting visual. Whose program is this? It's a real swanky joint full of real wise guys listening to some jazzy piano tunes and doing whatever it is they used to do in those smoky bars, real gangsters, as it were, looking at what I assume is their latinum, their ill-gotten gains. Lots of fun to be had there. I think Picard would like this one. But this is Murph's program, I guess. I don't know how that works. But Murph steals the show right here. Literally. Murph gets up on stage and is lip-syncing and dancing. And if the episode had to just stop right there and just had a loop of Murph dancing for 10 hours, I probably would have watched the entire thing. I've been mesmerized the entire time because it's amazing. If you watch this episode closely looking at Murph spends a lot of time looking like it just learned to walk yesterday. Like, it's not sure-footed. It kind of like hobbles along in this weird way, trying to find its balance. It's so cute. And that's like foreshadowing this when it goes into dance mode. And it just gets up on the stage and just starts freaking, just tearing up the dance floor. It's so neat. It's so cute. I'm just in love with Murph. I want him so bad. There's something wrong with one of the piano keys. What's a joint like this having a piano? Why does it have a piano with a messed up key? Wait a minute. Key. See, that's right. We put 2 and 2 together, right? Gwyn's father is also here serving drinks, suggesting that Gwyn has a holodeck program of her father. Interesting little thematic nugget that we just flick away. Other characters, I think, even see the diviner and don't really register that it means anything, like there's anything interesting about that. We're just wham bam, thank you ma'am, let's go to the next scene. We take the key off the broken key off the keyboard, revealing a hole beneath the piano, and we go down there. And it's all happening so fast that I don't get to absorb the meaning of each holodeck program. And on repeat viewings, I really didn't get much more out of it. Our next holodeck program is our matey. I got one eye blocked because I'm a pirate. You'll note that this is Dal's program. He gets to pretend to be a captain, admittedly of pirates. An interesting note for you. Rok-tahk's program, which we didn't see, was a veterinarian simulator looking after animals. Zero's holodeck program was a crime-solving, mystery-solving program. Murph's program was performing arts and dancing. What we see of Gwyn's is a brief look at her father's hologram. So we got fun, fun. But Dal's program is a rough and tumble simulation of being a captain. So in a way, his recreation on the holodeck is actually just training. He may not know it, but it's an interesting note that Dal's inner desire to be captain is so intense, it would in some ways overtake his ability to engage in harmless recreation. That to me was really interesting, and I don't know if I'm extrapolating based on that or if that was actually intended, but it's interesting to me that Dal has such a fiery dedication. He takes things actually really seriously, and he really, really wants to be impressive as a captain. And it comes through here on when you go just beyond surface level investigation. It comes up a lot in the season, that being the first season. But it's interesting to note that in this episode, is it not? Rok-tahk having fun with animals, Gwyn talking to her dad, Murph dancing, Dal being a captain. Being a real life captain isn't enough for him. Hopefully they get their way and get back to Starfleet safe and sound. That remains to be seen. Regardless, you would expect this program to go afoul again. It does. You see, our programs are merging, and we get what is admittedly an uncanny looking, slightly scary incursion of a giant, what I assume was one of the animals that Rok-tahk was looking after in a veterinarian program. Except this time, it is an enormous kraken and begins to tear into our ship. Safety protocols are off, so the danger is real. However, Dal has given Hologram Janeway his command code, and Hologram Janeway is trying to use this to override this whole conundrum and re-engage the safety protocols. Zero is the problem solver here. See, Zero solves the mysteries. Who's really behind this? Who's a real villain? In a way, this whole scenario has been a continuation of her program. They're solving the mystery, right? Zero figures it out. Why is it that no matter what happens in this sequence of programs, it seems like they're specifically designing problems to keep us distracted for a long time? We're going on a fetch quest, right? Admittedly, if you know what that is, many past seasons of Star Trek have felt like that. We're just going somewhere to get a thing that reveals that we need to find another thing that just helps us get another thing. And we're just going from thing to thing. And nothing is really creating an interesting through line, right? It's just getting a thing, and then we just keep repeating that. To have the fortitude mentally to be able to call that out in a holodeck program, to call out sloppy writing, is a unique talent. Zero has it and says, why are we just doing the same thing again? It doesn't matter if we get off this boat. We're just going to have another key to find. There's just going to be another problem to solve. This is designed to keep us here. And I think the culprit is on this ship. Who do you think did it? Who could have done it? Who's not in the program? It's Hologram Janeway. And when this revelation is revealed, the program ends. Because it knows now that the jig is up, and they know that they're just being had. Computer, playback security logs, and they actually see Hologram Janeway using Dal's command code to intentionally keep them in the holodeck forever and then control the ship to remove it from the neutral zone. Guess what? While they were gallivanting around in the holodeck program, the protostar has left the neutral zone and is flown straight into the open arms of the Dauntless. Very bad. But what you'll note is that this episode is just an overly convoluted exercise in taking away control of the ship. What we've done is essentially move the ship from here to here and taken away control from our characters. And we've achieved not much thematically along the way. It's largely pointless, entirely, what happens in the holodeck. Because what happens in the holodeck, as they say, has externalities that are exclusive to the holodeck. Meaning that what you do there, since it's not really taking place in reality, it doesn't have any kind of physical consequence. It doesn't feel like it has the same tension, and it doesn't feel fun, for that matter, because without tension, you can't have stakes, and without stakes, there's no reason to really do anything. I would have accepted a totally fun adventure in the holodeck that wasn't malfunctioning, and we completed Zero's cellar door society, or whatever they called it, mystery to find this key, and it was totally innocent, and this was like a Halloween episode. I would have enjoyed that, and then hammer home the themes harder. But what we got here was instead a hackneyed attempt to have this one-off fun episode instead tie into the overall plot. It's $1 short and a day late. We're in episode 17 now, I believe. A fun holodeck adventure should have happened before. Instead, audiences watching for the first time or children are going to be introduced to the holodeck when it's failing. There was a brief moment that we spent in the holodeck in a previous episode, but I wouldn't have called it an adventure. I think we could have done with a totally self-contained holodeck adventure at this point. Just to break things up a little. Hey, we're all a little bit beaten up. We've all just recently had some revelations about our past brought to light. We're a little bit sad about it. Let's just have fun in the holodeck and let's eat the ice cream. There's nothing wrong with that. Instead, we have an episode that's funny and then serious and then all confusing, broken up by a very interesting dance from Murph, which saved this episode for me. Just think, Janeway stealing Dal's command code somehow, taking control of the ship, taking over the neutral zone, while distracting the crew. That could have happened in many other scenarios. That could have happened any time the entire crew was off the ship, and then hologram Janeway make up some excuse as to why she needs the command code. Dal would just give it to her, and then Bob's your uncle. The ship is now going to Starfleet, and they can't change anything. That could have happened at any point. I assume now that the discovery of the existence of the living construct has accelerated hologram Janeway's ulterior motive. Maybe this was like Plan C. Oh, just trap them in the holodeck. That's all we can do now. Plan is a broad term to use here. I believed hologram Janeway at the end of this episode that she had no idea what she was doing. You see, an AI is not like a holistic, self-contained universe of thoughts. It's not like a person in this case. Different elements of the AI system are like doing different things, right? So you can't... One of the characters insinuates that Janeway this whole time was trying to get the characters to go to Starfleet for a nefarious purpose. I don't believe that. I think hologram Janeway is largely acting as hologram Janeway with brief moments in extreme circumstances that jeopardize the Diviner's mission. Her brain switching into destroy Starfleet mode. I think that's the exception to the rule. So I'm not throwing hologram Janeway under the bus entirely, although it is just a hologram. and there is a real Janeway. I would accept this as a good excuse to turn hologram Janeway off forever, because if you look at this thematically, hologram Janeway is training wheels for our characters, and training wheels have to come off at some point. And this would be a good moment to do it. I think we could find a way to turn off hologram Janeway so this doesn't happen again and get back command of the ship. I think that would be fine. We have real Janeway. Do we still need the hologram? I'll leave that up to you. With all that out of the way, what we have is an episode that, in summation, our characters are distracted, lose control of the ship, and now we're just between a rock and a hard place. Moment-to-moment action is not consequential. Thematically weak. Visually, I noticed a few strange animation errors. If you look early in the episode, when Zero is explaining to our characters what the Cellar Door Society is, you can see rok-tahk's arm snap in place at some point in one frame. Animation errors, believe me, I know, they can be harder than you think to fix in 3D modeling. Rok-tahk doesn't look super easy to animate. She is vaguely humanoid, but her joints are deeply buried inside her body, and she is made of rock, and it has to look convincingly like rock is sliding against rock. A little bit of a challenge. I'll accept a few animations here and there. These episodes, they're on a timeline, people. If something like that slips by, oh well. Something like that is usually caught by people, testing the episode. And it's so low down on things to fix that they just go with it. They don't have the time to go back and fix that and re-render that scene. Sometimes, you can watch something as its creator. You can watch something for thousands of times and not see a problem. That's just the way the brain works. I'll make a video, and while I'm editing it, I'll watch the same scene I just did hundreds of times, and every time I will continue to miss some glaring error that I can only see when I've cleared my mind. It's already uploaded, and then I watch it again as a viewer, and then I see the problem and I feel stupid. So I understand having a little error here and there. All in all, I think Prodigy is a beautiful show. So I'm not going to hold against it an error. I'll instead look at what it has to offer. And what it offers is interesting, spooky visuals, a Tellarite street fight, and a black and white, jazzy bar scenario, and a pirate ship. Who can complain? Musically, am I deaf? I don't think I heard anything this episode except for the sounds of these programs. The sounds you hear during the Tellarite section, the little rock and roll background music, the piano in the bar, the sounds of the ocean on the pirate ship. Nothing to write home about. And as we've discussed thematically, there's nothing really going on. I think overall it's a boring episode. It's not particularly fun. And I'm curious as to how kids or new viewers will interpret this. Will they get anything out of it? I think there could have been really something special here if we kept the first holodeck scene going and we just went all the way through Zero's mystery program and then we spooked it up to get the Halloween effect. That could have been special. As it stands, what we have is something that's not special. And that's annoying to me, especially when we're getting this close to the end. I suspect the next 3 episodes are really going to ramp it up. I think the last 2 episodes are a part 1 and a part 2. Interesting to have those buttress Christmas. In a way, we're putting the presents under the tree, and then you wait for part 2 to open your presents. If you catch my drift, that was Star Trek Prodigy episode 17, Ghost in the Machine. I guess Janeway was the ghost in the machine this time. And in a way, there's a ghost inside the machine that is hologram Janeway. That being the influence from the living construct. So it has like a double meaning, but both meanings are the same. It's a meaning, covered by itself again. It's a double nested meaning. It's interesting. Should have did more thematically, but we did get Murph. So with all that being said, this episode comes out. I'm just going to have to go with a flat 5. It gets to the end point convincingly. It's not very interesting. And I think you could just about almost skip it. I think the next episode will reiterate that Janeway took control of the ship and brought it out of the neutral zone. I think this episode is almost useless, but that doesn't make it bad. It just makes it possible to skip if you want to. You know how I rate things. A flat 5 just means we got to the finish line. We didn't get first. We kind of got last. If you go below a 5, you're not even getting to the finish line. You're not even delivering a convincingly okay episode. But I think they did this time. It just kind of came out like a thud. It just kind of bonked its way out. And there it is. You might find something interesting in these holodeck simulations. I kind of didn't. Other than, like I said, Murph. And missed opportunities abound. That was Ghost in the Machine. Hopefully, I don't remain a ghost in the machine for you, and I'm actually real, and I get to create more reviews. That being a review of next week's episode. So, don't you be a ghost, and I won't be either. I'm Lieutenant Mark, and I'll see you when next time I see you.